Welcome to Family Law Matters with Bonnie Mantell on ESPN Radio 1700. Now, here are your hosts, Bonnie Mantell and Michael Mantell.
Welcome, everyone. I'm certified family law specialist Bonnie Rabinovich Mantell, and every other week with my faithful sidekick, Dr. Michael Mantell, we'll be tackling the tough issues of divorce, child custody, child support, paternity, alimony, premarital agreements, and more. You know, the stuff that broken marriages and families are made of. Beginning with our next show, we will invite your participation with the goal of answering your questions to help you find your way forward. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Bonnie. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, let me clarify something
go ahead.
For our listeners. Dr. Michael Mantell and I are not related.
Right.
Dr. Mantell spells his name with an extra
correctly.
L. No, incorrectly.
Well, we'll debate that.
Maybe
we'll divorce over this. But in any case, I spell my name with two L's, and you spell your name with one L.
Correct.
But with two N's.
Bonnie is with two N's. Michael, don't start.
Okay. So the audience is already getting a feel for how great this program is going to be. But in this initial program, we thought it would be great to invite your superb team of professional attorneys and paralegals, and let's give them a chance to have the audience get to know them as well.
So just to introduce everybody on a basic level, we have with us Tiffany Catherine Brown, who is also a certified family law specialist, and she's been working in the field of family law for over 12 years. And we also have with us a newer attorney, Phoebe Sadler, who has been working with Primus Family Law Group for now over a year. And we also have our senior paralegal with us, Sean Torley, who's been a paralegal for over 20 years and actually a friend of mine for over 20 years as well. Welcome.
Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Michael. It's good to be here.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here.
Phoebe, you are the newest member of this remarkably passionate group of family attorneys. And I'm curious, if it's okay, I'd like to start with Phoebe. What is it that drew you to want to work with Primus Family Law?
Well, I've always wanted to do family law, and I wanted to work at a small firm that would feel like a family because I'm from the East Coast, so I don't have any family out here, and it was really important to me to find people that I wanted to work with every day. So in researching the firm and seeing all the client reviews, I was really impressed with how this firm treats its clients and the fact that they focus on finding what is right and reasonable for everyone. And then when I interviewed with Tiffany, we just clicked, and Primus has been my home ever since.
Family. That's what I hear. Tiffany, how about you? Tell us a little bit about how you were drawn to Primus Family Law.
I have known Bonnie for a long time in the legal field, and we've had a few cases together. And doing those cases, I've realized that Bonnie and I practice very similarly. We always try to settle a case if we can, but if not, neither one of us are afraid to go into court and fight for our clients' rights. And I also think that we're always trying to do what's best for our clients and put their interests before our own. So about 2 years ago, when I ran into Bonnie at court and she was like, "Are you interested in coming to work with me?" I was like, yeah, because I knew Bonnie's reputation and I knew her founding partner, Kim Marie Starrin, as well, and respected them immensely and knew that we could practice law well together because we have the same vision for what's right for our clients.
Oh, shucks.
Shucks is right. Isn't that nice? You use the expression, we want to do what's right for our client a couple of times. What is right for a client in a family law matter?
Well, family law is very unique because it's not an insurance company that's paying our bills. It's not a big corporation. This is people's hard-earned money. It's their savings. It's their retirement. It's money that could be going towards their children's college education if they have kids. We are not here just to blow through our clients' funds. We are here to help them create a new future and work out a new plan for their family going forward. And they're not there are some attorneys in the community that do that, and there are a lot of attorneys that don't. They just see their clients as a way to make money, and that's all they care about. Bonnie and I actually care about our clients. It keeps us up at night. We worry about them, but we want what's best for their family. And even though they're already here because something bad has happened, we want to make it better and allow them to grow forward in the future.
And now we have Sean, who's the paralegal here.
Absolutely. He's a big help to us. No successful attorney can really do this without the proper help. And that help comes with Sean Torley. I mean, it's not just a matter of him being a paralegal. He's also our in-house IT guy. If the computer goes down, he's the guy that I'll call. If I need, outside services, he's the guy.
I'd also say he's kind of the yin to our yang. Bonnie and I are aggressive, and Sean is much calmer, and he's very good with our clients and helping to calm them down.
Sean, tell us from your view. You've known this group for quite a while. You are the backbone of this group, as Bonnie has described you. What's your perception? You're the guy in this group. What's your perception of working with 3 female attorneys?
Well, it's interesting because I kind of have to go back to the beginning. When I first started off as a paralegal, I was working for a civil firm that had a family law component. And Bonnie was working as a paralegal at the time for a family law attorney. And so I had the opportunity to do some side work with her and with the attorney for whom she was working at the time. So that's how my relationship with her began, and we've been friends ever since. It was 20 years ago, and we used to joke about someday I would come to work for her, and we laughed about it. And, and then so it just so happened 2016 that the paths crossed again, and we decided to pull the trigger. And so I was kind of on the ground floor trying to help build what it was that was part of Bonnie's vision. So, and in doing so, we combined firms and we exchanged people and brought in new people, and we have just found over these past couple of years that the vision that Bonnie has been helped and it's been supported by the people that she's surrounded herself with. All of us have kind of a unique role, and I think that we all just kind of fell into it. It gelled kind of. It was a homeostasis that just kind of was there, and I think that is what provided the spark for what we are currently now.
Last year at the holiday party, I remember saying that I have worked in lots of different offices, but what impressed me most is that this is a family. Phoebe uses the word, you've used the word, Tiffany describes it that way, and it is a family. Bonnie, so Sean just talked about your vision. He mentioned it several times. What is your vision for Primus Family Law?
Well, Michael, you have to understand, I became an attorney later in life. I didn't go to law school right out of undergrad. I went to law school 10 years later after having 10 years of work experience. And for me, I also then worked in a bunch of different firms. Like Sean said, I started out as a paralegal, and then I moved and became an attorney, and I worked for another firm. And I did not like the way they ran their firms. I did not like the models they used, or the fact that it was mainly, like Tiffany had mentioned, about, using your client's retainer money or their funds until it was done and then getting the client out of your office. It was very important to me to see it through from beginning to end, to give the clients a right and reasonable approach, because the law is, will define what you're entitled to, but it doesn't necessarily work with your personal circumstances, your family dynamic, your lifestyle. What you're entitled to or what the law provides is not always the most reasonable approach. And what I wanted to establish was a firm that we care about our clients. Sometimes we care so much that we even will have to argue with our clients to make them see the bigger picture, because we're looking at their future, not just today, not next week, but you have children that want to get married, and you and your spouse or ex-person or the child's parent needs to be in the same room for that event because it's good for your children. So my vision really was to create an environment where we all practice with the same idea of achieving what's right and reasonable Like Tiffany said, it may require litigation, and we're fine with that, but it also can be achieved through reasonable negotiation, and we like to do that as well.
If our listeners are interested in learning more about Primus Family Law, they can go to www.primusfamilylaw.com. This is a website that is so impressive because it asks and answers personal questions about attorneys. So if someone's looking for an attorney, they go on www.primusfamilylaw.com, and one of the questions is the why behind Team Primus. We've talked a little about that. But I want to ask Phoebe, the newest member of the team, this question. What do you think is so unique about the attorneys at Primus Family Law?
I think what makes us different is that we like to take the direct approach with our clients and be very upfront with them about what the law states, how the courts will usually interpret those laws, and what is the likely outcome in their case. We don't really sugarcoat it because we want our clients to fully understand their situation and have realistic expectations for their future. We do a lot of divorces, and a lot of times someone who is going through a divorce is so focused on winning or getting back at the other parent that they fail to see how their actions are going to come off to the court, and most importantly, are going to impact their children. We like to take the time to discuss these things with our clients and try to get them to take a step back and really evaluate their options and figure out the best way to move forward.
Fabulous. Wow. And you've gotten all that in a year and plus at Primus Family Law. Well, I'm impressed. One of the questions that I want to ask you, Bonnie, is I hear you say zealous advocacy a lot. And I hear the attorneys talking about zealous advocacy. What is zealous advocacy?
Well, to use a layman's term, we don't phone it in. We actually do the work, we do the research, we pull together. What's nice about our office is now we have 3 active attorneys. So if I have a question and Tiffany's seen it before, we get together, we, brainstorm and try to figure out the best way to get our clients' needs met. And so that's what we mean by zealous advocacy, is we don't just go into court and wing it. We actually prepare, we work hard, we find out all the information, and then we proceed.
When we talk about right and reasonable, it's a phrase you folks use a lot. What's a client supposed to understand about that? We have about a minute, 45 seconds or so left before we take our first break. But what does that mean, Tiffany?
I think it means that we want to get the right outcome for your family. We want to get you the right outcome under the law. And we also want it to be reasonable in that your children often have both parents, and they need both parents unless there's cases of violence, abuse, things like that. So we're not looking for an unreasonable result. We're looking for something that's right under the law, but also right for your family.
Great. We're going to take a break now, and we'll be back after this.
I just died in your arms tonight.
You're listening to Family Law Matters with Bonnie Mantell on ESPN Radio 1700.
We're back talking about Family Law Matters with Bonnie Mantell and her wonderful team from Primus Family Law. During the break, Bonnie mentioned that some people listening might wonder, what does family law really cover? And let me throw that out at you. What does family law cover? I learned something this morning that it covers, for example, juveniles who get into difficulties themselves. That's a family law matter. But let's talk specifically about what family law is all about.
Well, family law that we practice, because yes, you're right, Michael, there are things like adoption and surrogacy and juvenile, but we do not do that at Primus Family Law Group. What we do is we deal with anything related to divorce, child custody, child support, spousal support, paternity, premarital agreements, and domestic violence situations. We also have, because we live in San Diego and it is such a large military town, that we have become focused on specific military issues.
You raised a good question. Tiffany, what are some military considerations in family law?
I think one of the most interesting military considerations in family law is custody, because people are deploying, and they recently changed the family code a few years ago that says that deployment does not affect a parent's time-sharing ability, and they shouldn't be punished because they have to deploy. And that's really changed things for a lot of our military clients. They've also created a section where family of the military spouse, whether it be grandparents, aunt and uncle, even a stepmom or stepdad, can actually continue to have visitation and sometimes even custodial rights while that party is deployed, so that the children continue to see both sides of the family, and that also ensures that they can FaceTime or, Skype with their deployed parent if that's possible, depending on their deployment. Other big military issues are retirement. They have changed the retirement laws, which affect how retirement's divided. Previously, if you were married to anybody in the military, you got to go along for the ride till they retired. Now that stops at the divorce, and you only get the retirement at their level, whether that be like a E6 or whatever it may be at the time. Bonnie and I are familiar with that, and that is something that we handle on a regular basis. I think, though, that our legislature has done a good job on really starting to respect and honor our military and change the family code in ways that says thank you for your service. At Primus, we do offer a military discount as well for our clients because we are very thankful for their service. And living in San Diego, we cross paths with military members all the time, and Sean himself is actually a veteran.
Just to clarify a little
Please.
bit, because, our listeners may not understand some of the legal mumbo-jumbo that we do. And Tiffany mentioned, that being deployed no longer is used as a punishment against somebody's timeshare. So to explain what that might mean is that, for example, a typical deployment could be 6-7 months, which means that a parent who is deployed will not be seeing their child regularly for 6 or 7 months. And it used to be that the other parent was able to run into court and file a motion saying, hey, my ex-spouse or the child's father or mother hasn't seen the child for 7 months, and therefore when they come back, they should have to start at some lesser visitation schedule because they've been out of the country or out on deployment. And the legislature realized that that was just not fair because it wasn't a choice a parent was making. They had no choice. They have to go. So it's important for our military members. We get that question a lot. Is it going to be, am I going to lose my rights with my child if I go on deployment? And no, you will not. You are guaranteed to return to the same visitation schedule you had before your deployment once you come back.
Is there an overall strategy that you take as a team? A new case calls, people are listening to the show right now, and they're saying, I like the way these folks sound. They sound personable, they sound caring, they sound real, they sound like they're connected and engaged with me. I've got a whole team of people behind me. They're going to call you later on today, and they're going to say, I want some information. What is your strategy for a case?
Well, not every case is the same, Michael. I mean, when some of the issues may be the same, but not every approach to it is the same. So what we usually do is we listen to somebody when they call in what their issues are. They always call in with a story, which is great background information. And then if they want to proceed further, if there's documents to review, if there's things that we need to come up to speed on, what we'll usually do is sit together, look at a case, figure out what's going on, and then decide the way forward and which one of us attorneys is going to be the one primarily handling that matter.
When you initially call the office, though, you'll speak to Courtney or to Sean, and Sean does a great job of really giving Bonnie and I the background information we need and taking the time. Sometimes he talks to these potential clients for quite a long time to understand them and their emotions and their feelings. And that really helps Bonnie and I for when we do our 30-minute free consultations to already have notes and say, okay, I see that there's a house or that this is your child sharing or you haven't even talked to your spouse about divorce yet. Do you want to talk about a plan? What would that look like? Are you interested in filing now? Are you interested in filing after the new year? Are you not sure? Maybe they should go see you, Michael. And I think the fact that yes, it's a 30-minute free consultation with us, but Sean takes the time to really get to know these clients before they even speak to the lawyers, helps a lot, and gives our potential clients a feeling of security and that we care before they've even met us in person.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Michael. An important thing to note is that our website does provide several resources, also topics, and information that anybody looking to either hire an attorney or how to proceed in their family law matter, we have a bunch of tips and things that you can look at and help yourself find your way forward, at least until you get in to speak to us.
And they can find the website at www.primusfamilylaw.com or can call the office directly at
619-574-8000.
Perfect. 619-574-8000. So let's assume someone's going to call after this program, okay? Now, they're looking for a certain kind of attorney, and they think you are the attorney that's going to solve their family dilemma. You are also looking for the right type of client. You have an idea in your mind what the attributes are for a wonderful client. And since Phoebe is already smiling at this question, I'm going to have Phoebe start it off.
I think when a client calls, they have a lot of things that they're not sure about, and maybe their situation has a lot of problems, a lot of background information that they don't think would be important to us. I think as a potential client calling in, you want to be very candid with your attorney and you want to tell them all the stuff, because you might think that something isn't important that they're going to see the legal significance of in your case, and it is going to be important. So I think anything that you're not sure of whether or not you should share, now is the time to do that and to develop that relationship where you can tell them things and they can help you, like, oh, well, that's not going to be important. This is. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I think the other thing that's important to understand is when you do call to speak to Bonnie, Phoebe, or I, it is confidential. An attorney-client relationship is started immediately at that point. The other thing that's helpful is have your paperwork, know your case number, give us a call ahead of time. Don't call us right before your hearing. If you know you have a hearing in 3 to 4 months, give us a call as soon as you know you have that hearing so we can take the time to prepare you for the process, prepare your documents, and prepare for your case.
Sean, you speak to clients first off. What is it that you're looking for in the ideal first call?
Well, it's hard to say because every situation is unique, and I treat each potential client that way. It's almost as if I start with a clean slate. Sometimes, depending on the source of the referral source, how the client comes to us, there will be some information that's already provided. Sometimes it's coherent, sometimes not as much. It depends on the emotional situation for the client. And so for me, I just get on the phone and I listen. That's the first thing I do. I try to pick out information as it's being conveyed through the emotions, ostensibly, because there always are. And I have questions in my mind that I know the attorneys are going to need to know to decide collectively if it's a case that we want, that we can take, that we can help them with, that kind of thing. So I try to make it my point to gather as many facts as I can to help them with their situation while deferring to the emotion and offering kind of an empathetic component that, again, shows them that we care, which is consistent with the vision.
Great answers. Again, terrific. This is an opportunity for our listeners to get to know Primus Family Law, and they can go on the Primus Family Law website, www.primusfamilylaw.com. We're going to take another break, and we'll be back right after this.
I heat up like a burning flame, burning flame.
Welcome back to Family Law Matters with Bonnie Mantell on ESPN Radio 1700.
And we're back with Primus Family Law team and Bonnie Mantell. Bonnie, this is a very unusual time of the year, the holidays.
Well, it happens annually, Michael.
It does. It happened last year, didn't it?
Every year at the same time.
And I think it's going to happen again next year, probably about the same time. Oh, my goodness. But for families going through difficulties, this is not necessarily the most wonderful time of the year. This is a very stressful time. And if people go to www.primusfamilylaw.com, they'll find a wealth of resources about how to deal with divorce and family difficulties during the holidays. But I want to talk about that. What is the one piece of advice you have for families going through coping with the holidays in the middle of divorce? What's the one issue that stands out that's their biggest concern?
Hi. Unfortunately, people who are going through a divorce and even during the holidays forget about the primary concern, which is your children. This is the children's holiday as well. And while it may be exceedingly difficult to look your ex in the face and be pleasant or civil, this is really the time not only to show your children how important the holidays are to your children, but also it's a life-teaching moment. How do you co-parent? How do you teach your children that we are going to get along or at least be civil, even though we don't like each other? And that's very important at this time of year. So you've got children, there's visitation schedules, you've got division of days, we got to split up the holidays, and little Johnny has to go at this time to parent A or this time to parent B. And you should really be trying to focus on making those transitions in this time as easy as possible for your kids.
On a comment on that as well is I think often parents are worried about winning the holidays and they don't put their kids first. They want more time or they need this for them. And a lot of families already have holiday traditions and maybe they spend Christmas Eve with maternal side of the family and Christmas Day with the paternal side of the family. And I think because divorce is such a hard time for your children already, it's important to try and preserve those traditions, not win the holiday.
Or
maybe
tug of war.
Yeah, you had 3 extra hours on Christmas, so you won. That's not what it is. If you normally, like my family, for example, I have a Scandinavian history. Christmas Eve is a big deal. I have always spent it with my mom. After my parents got divorced, I still spent Christmas Eve with my mom. Christmas Day with my dad. He likes to make prime rib. It's a whole thing. We have dinner. We do a family gift exchange. And we kept it that way because that's how our family traditions had been. And while the court, if you go to court and you can't figure something out, the court will just cut the holiday down the middle. They don't really care what your traditions are. They'll alternate years. But if you can work with your spouse and really put your kids first and try and preserve those family traditions when your children have already lost sometimes their homes, had to change schools, they're now living in 2 separate places, I think it's important, especially at this time of the year, to think what's best for my children.
Now, we're not idealistic to think that all of our, all divorcing or separating couples will be able to do this. And if you can't work it out with your spouse, that's what we're here for. Either we'll figure it out or the court will.
On your website, you have magnificent tips for coping with the holidays. And I want to share some of these if people won't go to the website directly. 1, don't skimp on self-care. The idea is comparing your holiday separation to what you had as a child or comparing it to what the neighbors are having is harmful to you, and your kids are going to feel that. So employ everyday kindness. Just as a little me time can go a long way to make you feel refreshed amidst a hectic holiday season, how about practicing kindness? Another tip you offer is create your own holiday experiences. It doesn't have to be the way Norman Rockwell showed it to be.
Well, what we actually meant by that, Michael, was, like Tiffany said, you may have established traditions in your family that you've done as a unit, for the last X amount of years. But now you're on a different path. You're no longer in that unit. That unit is now 2 families, 2 households. So we're trying to say, don't necessarily get hung up on what you did last year or the year before. Make new traditions. This is not while it is the breakup of a family or it's the breakup of a marriage, it doesn't have to be despondent. It's also a new beginning for you and your kids on this side.
What if, though, we don't have this idealistic family, and we have two people who, let's be honest, they hate each other. They can't stand each other. He's been abusive, she's been cheating, this one's whatever it may be. What do you tell this couple?
Well, you tell them to stay, if they can't get along, you don't put them in situations where they have to get along. That just creates drama and trauma for the children. I mean, if mom and dad can't go to the same school Christmas play because they're going to get into a fight in the middle of the arena, you don't do that because it's not good for the children. So we work with either the other side and our clients to say, okay, this structure is not going to work for this family. That's, again, part of our right and reasonable. What may be right for X, Y, and Z may not be right and reasonable for this particular family.
Tiffany, you were going to add something.
Oh, I got distracted listening to Bonnie, but I do think
that's an indication of what happens in the office, folks.
Bonnie is completely correct, and I was also going to say
always, right? Always.
Yeah, always. I was also going to say that if they really can't get along and they can't even come to an agreement through their lawyers, that is when the court gets involved. And it's important that if you know the holidays are coming up and your spouse and you can't even agree that the sky is blue, you need to go into court early to get those holiday orders. As I've said on our website before, and you guys just talked about, Christmas comes at the same time every year. The judges don't want to be hearing ex parties on December 23rd where little Johnny is going to wake up. So if you have concerns about you don't have a holiday schedule or something like that, you need to give us a call now, 619-574-8000, so that we can help you figure out those holiday plans.
Exactly. Sean, you have heard it all. You've heard everything there is to hear in family law from your perspective, from the beginning and watching the case unfold all the way to its successful end. You're a very passionate guy, and you have a lot of genuine, caring feelings for clients that come into Primus Family Law. Tell us a memory that you have of a case that went really well, and everyone left feeling our future is in good shape. We're moving ahead well.
We actually had a case fairly recently that involved a domestic violence component where our client and her children found themselves to be not in a safe place very quickly. And we had to work very closely with the client and with the court and move some mountains to make things happen to keep her and her children safe. And through quite a bit of effort on the part of the entire team and the client, we were able to effectuate a result that not only resulted in the children's and our client's safety, but ensured a path towards their future as well.
Mm-hmm. Bonnie, were you going to say something about that? A success story that sticks out in you, that really fires you up when you think about it and says, this is what I love about family law.
For me, the ability to have somebody change the way they pattern their life and do something different and better for themselves and their children is what I consider very successful. And a few years ago, I had a client who literally, once again, unfortunately, it was a domestic violence situation. And, we don't do that much of that, but it seems to be more and more. She was in a dead-end job. She had 3 kids. She had a very abusive ex. And through working with me, I realized that she actually had extreme skills to be a paralegal, and I convinced her to go to paralegal school. And she went to paralegal school. She stopped the dead-end job. She actually works for a huge law firm now as one of their senior paralegals. And she's, changed her life since, and her kids are doing amazing. And it was just one act of kindness from our office to say, hey, maybe you can try this.
Phoebe, you've been at it for a couple of years, short period of time. Is there a case that fires you up when you think about it? Is there a situation you've dealt with that just really gets you going in a positive way about all this?
One thing that I really like to see is when we do mediation between spouses, which is another thing that we do at Primus. What we have is both spouses come in and they talk about the issues and what they want to see moving forward. And they sit down with one of the attorneys and we help them get everything done all in one place. and there's no, well, not as much arguing or anything like that. They get a really positive outcome that they can both live with in the future. And so I think that's really great to see.
Folks, you've been hearing the team of Primus Family Law with Bonnie Mantell. We have another segment coming up where we'll be talking some more about Family Law Matters.
This is Family Law Matters with Bonnie Mantell on ESPN Radio 1700.
And welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Bonnie Mantell and her superb Primus Family Law team.
I'm so lucky they're here. I need to say so much less.
That's exactly right. Imagine what happens in our next program. We're only going to be listening to you.
No, and you, because you seem to be talkative.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have something to say. Phoebe, Sean, Tiffany, you've answered a lot of questions. You've revealed a lot about yourselves. You've shared a great deal about what it's like to be part of the team. Sean is busy having a piece of candy that he's not sharing with us, but that's okay. We don't care. We're a family.
Michael.
I could have cut it up first if you want.
Right. Well, but you're going to bite it, so that wasn't the way to cut it up. But in any case, I have collected the most common questions that people ask about family law, particularly divorce. And so let me throw these out. Tiffany, let me toss the first one to you. How does the court determine who gets custody of children in a marriage?
Well, the standard is best interest of the children. But what every judge will usually tell you is, you know more about your family than I do. So while the code requires that I consider the best interest of the children, usually the parents know what the best interests of the children are. Now, in determining the best interest of the children, there's a bunch of factors the court looks at. Who has traditionally been the primary parent? That is, who gets up with the kids in the morning, who makes breakfast, who takes them to school, who takes them to their activities, and things like that. However, just because they have been the primary parent when they get divorced, it doesn't mean that custody is going to necessarily go to that parent. It might initially, and then it will transition to a more equal timeshare, which is what the goal of the court is to have frequent and continuing contact with both parents. So often, sometimes it's mom doing a lot of the work and dad saying, well, I still want to be spend more time with our children. And it's really interesting because sometimes after divorce, a lot of our male clients will tell us, I'm a better father now, and I'm more involved in my children's lives, and I actually understand what it means to be a parent. And that's really fun to see that growth. But the standard is best interest of the child. However, that can be very, very vague. And Bonnie and I will really try and work with other attorneys and our clients to try and work out a parenting plan that works for your family. Because otherwise, you go to the courts and the judge says, I only have 20 minutes, maybe 40 minutes to make a decision about the future of your children and where they're going to be.
You know, and one of the things that Tiffany and I often hear is, especially when people call in for their free consultation, is, well, I thought the courts want 50-50. That's the goal, 50-50. And it's not. The goal is the best interests of the children, which doesn't necessarily mean that both parents have an exact same timeshare. I mean, realistically, there are some parents who, by their very nature of their profession, a doctor, a lawyer, they work 12, 14 hours a day. That doesn't allow them in their circumstances to have exactly 50-50 because, you know, the child still has bedtime, homework, needs to get up and go to school. If you've got one parent out at 7 and in at 9, there's the things that we have to teach our clients. That's funny.
That was called Freudian.
You know, the realities of their situation. So we'll often ask, well, what is your work schedule? Yes, I understand you want equal custody, but what is your work schedule? What is the way you've been doing it for the last 5, 10, 12 years?
Two other questions that people ask frequently about divorce. How much child support am I going to have to pay? And can I stop paying child support if my ex won't let me see my children again?
Okay, well, clearly, let's just be very clear right up front. If you have a child support order, you cannot stop paying until that child support order is changed.
But she won't let me see the kids.
I think the other thing
Michael.
that's important to say is that child support order doesn't go away. Unless you have filed an order with the court or come to some type of stipulation which has been signed by a judge, not just an email between you and the other parent, that child support stays in place, runs at 10% interest, and will follow you even after your children are
Yeah, but
adults.
it's not fair. You don't understand. She won't let me see the kids.
Well, then you go to court, Dr. Mantell,
that's what I want to hear about.
and you file either an enforcement action or a modification action, because one of the factors for the court's consideration in the best interests of the children is which parent is more willing to share. If you have a parent who is withholding access for no reason other than I wanna, that's not going to work in our court system, and judges take that very seriously. But they will not stop your child support order unless your circumstances have changed, which means you have more time with the child than you did before, or the parties' incomes have changed. That's what affects your child support. Your income, his or her income, and the time you spend with the children.
I also think it's important to know that child support is not about giving the other party money.
Right.
It's about money for the children. So whether or not the other parent's facilitating that, the court looks at it as this is money that's putting clothes on your children's back. It's putting gas in the car to get them to and from school. That's why you can't just stop paying, because this money is for the children. It's not for the other parent.
That's why it's not taxable.
What if the father's income, assuming the father's paying this, let's say, could be the mother's too. But
Nice stereotype.
notice I said it could be the mother too. But the point I'm asking you very, very quickly, what if the income changes? It goes up or goes down?
You file a motion, and then it gets recalculated.
Very quickly, we only have a couple of minutes left. What do I have to do to get the divorce process started?
Call us.
574
8,000. That's 619-574-8000.
And they can write to you at info@primusfamilylaw.com, and they can go on the website, www.primusfamilylaw.com. What's the first thing they're going to do with you?
Well, they need to file a petition, and there's a petition package. And while it looks simple, it's a box-checking form, when you actually try to read it, it's not that simple, because a lot of, A sounds like B and B sounds like A. And so you really do need a skilled attorney to help you get through the process properly, so it's not rejected by the court, sent back by the court, and all the fun things that happen.
I think anyone listening to us today recognizes that there are 3 skilled attorneys and 1 powerhouse paralegal here. People who care with their heart, people who think with their minds, and work as hard as they possibly can to get what is right and reasonable. They call Bonnie Bulldog in the office. She's more of a sweetheart than a bulldog. But if you want someone who's going to fight for you, who's going to stand up for you, these professionals, Bonnie, Tiffany, Sean, Phoebe, are the ones who will do it. I want to thank you, everyone, for listening. We're going to be back in 2 weeks.
We are.
With
Thanks so
another
much.
topic.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Our goal every other week is to offer you insights and answers to the tough issues involved in family law. We want to create constructive separation and divorce agreements, form healthy post-divorce parenting relationships, and to help you heal and grow through the heart-hitting family matters. Give us a call at 619-574-8000 for a free half-hour consultation. And feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Primus Family Law, or follow Dr. Michael Mantell, a learned life coach and retired psychologist, at Dr. San Diego.